Hello and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge. Well, dawn technically not because, well, by time period 5:38 a.m. So daylight time. That's kind of like the time of dawn, but it's really nighttime because we are in daylight savings time, which they were talking about on CBS News on the Hour radio program, saying that so controversial people just hate it. And they were even making a quote from somebody, playing a quote, somebody saying, I hate daylight savings time. So I'll say, yeah, I'm in that camp. But starting tomorrow, we'll be back to real time, standard, actual time. Okay, and it will be daylight or becoming daylight at 5:38. So we're going to fall back to reality. Okay, anyway, I have two brandies, and they're both 40% alcohol, and they're both VS brandies. VS meaning age 2 to 4 years maximum. If you get one really cheap, it's probably more like 2 years. If you get one expensive, it might be more like 4. But it's a range, and it's usually a blend of different ones. Okay, this is Martell. I have enough left, I think, for a taste challenge. If not, I'll have to cancel this and start over with a different one. But this is the last of the cognac that I have. I had a bunch. I had a few, I should say, but they're gone. But I intend to buy some more. I did the Hennessy VS, Hennessy VSOP Privilege, Hennessy Black, Martell here. Another Martell I did, the Blue Swift, which technically is not a cognac because there was a controversy with bourbon barrels and blah, blah. So they had to call it a distilled beverage product, even though it's made by Martell of Cognac, France. Okay, but that's another story. I had the label when they were still calling it cognac, but all right, those are all technical problems more than anything. But here's the three. It's not focusing. Here's the three hammers on there. And there's the 3 stars, because in England they call it 3-star brandy. There, it's finally focusing. So if you go to England, they'll say, oh, that's a 3-star brandy. In other countries, they call it VS, which to me is very standard, but they'll use euphemisms, call it very smooth, very special, blah, blah, blah. All right, that's Martell, famous product around the world. They've been in business since 1715. Over 300 years. And they got all kind of cognacs now. I mean, you could buy that one for like $25 maybe. Talking about the full-size bottle. This is a half size. I got 2 halves for $11. That was a deal that day. But it's not even a half, is it? No, it's 200 milliliters, so it's small, but still, that is super cheap. That was a Savannah discount. And that lasted about 2 days. In that display case, or display island, they call those an island, a stack, stud stack, whatever they want to call it. Now here is a much lesser light product. 1889 Royal VS Brandy, RB as they call it on the bottle neck, RB, Royal Brandy. Heaven Hill, if you look at the website link listed below, or I posted below, they call it old 1889 Royal Brandy. And I did some trademark research, and it turns out that old 1889 Royal Brandy was trademarked in 1915. And it wasn't started by Heaven Hill. Couldn't have been, because Heaven Hill didn't exist until 1933. So it was acquired by them. Who started old 1889 brandy? I don't know. Some small company. I looked at the advertisement from 1915, and it said back then it said Old California 1889 brandy since 1889. I hear sirens. That's not a good sign. Wreck, probably car wreck. It's very foggy, so that would make sense. We had a terrible 150 car pileup with 7 deaths in Louisiana earlier this fall. Driving in the fog, probably driving too fast, but they couldn't see 10 yards ahead. So once they started crashing, it was terrible. Okay, now the interstate's still closed down. Interstate 55 is still closed because of the fire damage. It was like a huge chemical truck and it was exploding and burning. So if you drive from Chicago to New Orleans or Memphis to New Orleans, you'll have to get off the interstate onto the old Highway 51. They call it Highway 51, but it's really old 51 because 51 is on the bridge part, elevated part of Interstate 55. But whatever, they'll have signs showing you where to detour. And that heavy fog, I think I'd have stayed on the old road because it'd have been safe. Oh yeah, I hear fire engines and everything. This sounds like a bad one. It's a shame. We have many junctions here in this town where different major highways come together and people just, you're getting on one major highway from another and you're looking at your phone, I see people doing it now. They're like, you don't really need to be looking at your phone right now. There's not that much exciting on Instagram for your life to depend on it. But anyway, that's what people do. Okay, you say the police should stop. Well, the police are all on their phones. Anytime I see a police law enforcement, like sheriff's deputy or police, they're looking at their phone. They'll be on a guard at the airport to watch out for bad guys. I said a bad guy could walk right in front of them with who knows what, carrying who knows what. They wouldn't see him. They're looking at the phone. Hear those sirens? You probably can hear those. When I was walking, I already went walking in the dark, and I was thinking, man, it's so foggy. Glad I'm not out there driving. Okay, so that's Martell. That's the end of it. I have barely enough for a taste challenge. Not really adequate, but look, these are not going to be close. This cheapo thing here, I bet you when this was out in 1889, 1899, 1909, 1919, before this apostasy of prohibition came, turning into making something that's not a crime into a crime. How you like that? U.S. government's great experiment with insanity. Outlaw, making a crime out of something that clearly is not a crime. Didn't get enforced too well in Louisiana, apparently. Historians told me back in college, they said, man, look, in the 20s and 30s in New Orleans during Prohibition, everybody, it was wide open drinking in New Orleans, French Quarter and everything. It's just like all hush hush, but it wasn't really that hush hush because New Orleans is a port city. A lot of ships coming in from Cuba, Jamaica, Dominican Republic, Bahamas, and they were smuggling in and everything. Okay, now, but this thing now, I call it this thing now because it's got natural flavors and caramel color. And that's what I'm calling it, this ridiculous flavored thing. And I know sometimes they'll tweak these brandies with flavoring, like Canadian whiskey, they'll tweak it with flavor. Okay, fine. But this thing, it's like they went berserk. It's really like Heaven Hill went berserk and said, just dump all the vanilla in it, all the vanilla flavor. It's natural vanilla. It has to be because they're natural flavors. I'm saying vanilla. I don't know. It could be something else, but sure does taste like it. Certainly does taste like vanilla extract was added. But get real. Does vanilla taste good? To me, yeah, I like it. Some people can't stand the flavor of it, which is, everybody got different preferences. But oh no, on the aroma, it smells like grapes, but on the flavor, it's like a vanilla icing. It's a joke. I would not recommend it. Now, I'm not going to buy it again. And if somebody gave it to me, I would re-give it. You know what I'm saying? Like I would just say, oh, thanks, and then I would give some. Tell somebody, you want this stuff? It's not very good. They might. I know some people that would take anything, just because it's alcohol. They would just mix it with some drink, mask the flavor anyhow. That's cool. That's probably what it's designed for. If you hear that squealing, that's the refrigerator. I don't know. I think it's going to break, and I don't know what it is doing that. I thought it was the fan motor. It might. The fan motor seemed to be spinning clear. I took the fridge off yesterday, the cover, and I was cleaned it off with a wet towel and then got the dust off. It seemed it could be internal that it's. Oh well, I bought an inexpensive hot point years ago at the Home Depot, General Electric kind of discount brand. It's been doing fine, but they break. The things these days, you always hear people say that things these days, they don't last. But apparently that really is true. I read an article about furniture, and it was like, why is furniture so trashy today? It just falls apart. I guess maybe because people are so heavy these days. Okay, Jean-Pierre says, hey, Jay. Hey, Jean. So Jean had a really interesting whiskey last night from Heaven Hill. They didn't have a web page for it, just had a listing on their product specifications. And he had the white label, Heaven Hill, old style, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. And I have a gold label. And then if you look at the Heaven Hill website, there's a black label. And I don't know what the difference is. Gold, white, and black. And they all have the same description, it seems like. So I don't know. There's got to be a reason. Like, is one sour mash? Is one not? Mine says charcoal filtered as well. So it might be that one is charcoal filtered before aging and one is charcoal filtered after aging. I got to read carefully on that. Yeah. About to do my morning walk, do some beer shopping. Oh, good. Troy is lying. He says, I'm up early drinking Skull vodka. Oh, I don't know if I would do that early, but here I am tasting brandy, telling them don't drink vodka. Cheers, you guys performing. Good morning, brothers. Oh, yeah, good morning to you. Okay, here we go. Shouldn't be a challenge. So far, so bad for 1889 brandy. It's lost every challenge, and I never got it confused once. I have a perfect record. Can you imagine me getting it wrong against a cognac? I can't see it. Can't see it. No, that smells a little vanilla-ish. And that smells like oak, like brandy saturated oak. There is no way that can be the 1889. That can't be. That's got to be the Martell. If there was ever a mismatch here, this is it. All right, cheers, y'all. Oh, boy. This is a funny product. I mean, it's really funny. It's funny, comical. Like, y'all put this on the shelf and y'all sell it with a straight face. Like, oh, yeah, this fine brandy. Uh-huh. This fine vanilla cake icing, vanilla cake frosting. I could get Duncan Hines vanilla frosting or Betty Crocker, and it would taste like this, which is not a bad flavor if you're eating cake. You know what this tastes like? It sort of tastes like wedding cake. Oh, man, it is silly. This is a silly product. You say, well, you only paid $17.99 for that huge glass bottle. That's right. I only paid $17.99 for the huge glass bottle. But I think it was about $10 too expensive. It should have been $7.99. Oh, man. Oh, well, no one forced me to buy it. I bought it on my own volition. It was cheaper per ounce than the regular bottle, which was $9.99. But I guess I should have bought the regular bottle. Now I got this huge thing here. But the reviews for it are good. If you look on Total Wine, they're pretty good. But then you'll get a few like me saying, "What is this vanilla cupcake?" Now there's the real thing. There's pretend and there's reality. If somebody tells you, look, sorry, my nose was itching. If somebody tells you, oh, I never tasted brandy, what does it taste like? I would not say give them 1889 and say this is what brandy tastes like. Because they're going to think, oh, yeah, I like vanilla cupcakes. I'm going to buy some more brandy. No, this is an aberration. It does not taste like vanilla cupcakes. Well, this one does, but brandy tastes like that. White wine, distilled grapes, oak wood, even maybe charred oak, grape leaves, yeah, richness, oak age, yeah. And this is just the base model. They don't even say you should sip this. If you look at the Martell website, I put the link below. They're not saying you should sip it. It's saying mix it. It's a mixer. It's for making cocktails, brandy old fashioned or brandy Alexander. That's all. Well, but it's cognac. You say, what's the difference between cognac and brandy? Basically, there is no difference. It's just a type of brandy made in Cognac, France, and it's got an official designation, like a legal thing. But I think if you read the regulations, it's like, I think I haven't reviewed those in so long, but I think it has to be French oak. That's why that one that was aged in bourbon barrels, they came down on Martell and were like, you can't call that cognac. It's aged in bourbon barrels. Oh well, sorry. So they call it it says real small in small lettering, something like distilled beverage product. And I don't think cognac can have flavoring added, something like that, you know. But other than that, it's just brandy. That's all it is. Just brandy. Just brandy. But of a higher quality structure. And you could clearly tell that. So this is obviously Martell, and I'm finished with the Martell. All the bottles are gone. Been on the market since the reign. Well, I don't know when the man died and when they started. I know Louis the 14th died in 1715, and Martell started in 1715. So I don't know if they started before or after he died. So it could have been. Well, we know it's at least from the reign of Louis the 15th. His great grandson, believe it or not, the king died and his great grandson took over, and that's another complicated story. His son had already died, his son, so he had to jump to the next stage. But then his grandson was the king of Spain, and they had a war, and France lost, so they weren't allowed. The king of Spain wasn't allowed to become the king of France as well because they didn't want a superpower in Europe, a Franco-Spanish superpower. In other words, when I say they, I mean England didn't want that. Now, if they had done it, well, that'd be different. They say, yes, well, that's appropriate. But Austria, France's arch enemy, and England were like, no, no. So that was the War of the Spanish Succession. But that's another story, like I said. Okay, so Martell, obviously. And vanilla. The vanilla show. I mean, you might say, I know there's some viewers that would say, oh man, I love vanilla flavored stuff. I'll buy that in a second, especially if it's $17.99 for a handle. I'm on that. I get it. I get it. No problem. You'll enjoy it. Oh, you'll enjoy it a lot. It's smooth, easy going. It's not nasty, off putting about it, but it's proper. Like, you can sip on it, but don't sit there and say, oh, what a nice brandy. No, say, oh, what a nice vanilla concoction. All right. Well, I got all French brandy coming up, and that's going to be end of the brandy because I did Spanish, the Fundador, brandy Fundador. I did the Ukrainian brandy, Odessa, VSOP. They call it cognac in Ukraine, but it's not. But that's what they call it. But because France's law doesn't apply to Ukraine. And then I've got the Saint Remy XO. Well, you could skip watching that video because you know what's going to happen. Saint Remy XO. I got this brandy Saint Louise, aged 3 to 10 years. That's the range. Got 3-year brandies all the way up to 10-year brandy. It's produced in France for this lady in Dallas. Actually, she owns Riku Spirits, and she actually sent messages, or I should say, posted comments on those challenges saying thank you for reviewing this brandy, which it's been my life's work. Like she put her heart into getting this going. And I said, well, you're welcome. I don't know the lady. They did not send me the brandy, if that's what you're thinking. I bought it at Savannah Discount. I don't really see it around. I don't know if it's successful, but it sure does taste good. Let me say that much. But so yeah, I got Saint Remy. I got a Reynal 3 barrels, or they call it in England three barrels brandy. but in the United States, it's called Reynolds because that's who makes it. It's made by a company called Reynolds. It's probably some copyright thing, trademark thing. They probably already have some obscure American product called Three Barrels. And so they said, oh, well, we can't have the trademark on that. So they just call it Reynolds. That won't be any kind of contest. And then there's one more I'm not thinking of. I can't think of it. And that'll close it out. There might be one more. That'll close it out. And then we're on to rum. And I have an interesting rum from Sazerac. And this rum is so, I don't think they started it. No, but they might have. But anyway, it's could not find a trademark on it. Don't know when it was introduced. Been around a while. But man, that is the funniest label. It is so crazy. I'm gonna show y'all though. I will show you, and you will get a laugh out of it. But people have been asking me about Calypso. I'm gonna tell you what's called Calypso, and they say, "Well, what about Calypso?" I've had this comment at least twice. I said, "Well, I have some Calypso, but I never tried it." And somebody told me, "Well, I drink that every day. That's good stuff." I said, "Okay, I'm gonna get to it," and now I'm to it. Now I'm to it. Okay, let's see the comments. Dr. Frosty Brew, cheers. Ron, can you give a shout out to Brendan for his birthday? Thanks. Happy birthday, Brendan, whoever you are. Does Tulane have a game today? Jean-Pierre says, yes, they're playing East Carolina in Carolina. Greensburg, right? Greensboro, Eastern Carolina. That team used to be good. They used to go to bowl games every year and stuff, but now they're terrible. They have one win the whole year. One win. And Tulane has only one loss. You say, oh, that's a trap game. That's those games where you're 20-point favorites and you go and lose. And I'm saying to you, yep, that's what those kind of games are. Scary games. Because it's like everything points toward Tulane winning. But you know as well as I do, college football is a strange sport and a lot of weird things happen. Even with your big teams, like Oklahoma, like last week. So you never know. Yep. Versus East Carolina, says Troy. I'm ready for NCAA all day, baby. Yeah, me too. I'll be watching games. Yeah, oh yeah. Louisiana State University and Alabama, University of Alabama tonight, 7:45 Eastern on CBS, Columbia Broadcasting System. That's the big game. Because if Alabama wins, they're still in the contention for the national championship, even with a loss. I mean, they're not in the forefront, but they're in there, you see, because, you know, they're so dangerous. LSU with 2 losses. Well, no, they're not in it, but they could still screw up Alabama's season, obviously. So anyway, that'll be quite a day. All right, y'all take care. Have a good, safe day. I'll try to come back tomorrow with another French brandy, obliterating this Heaven Hill thing. I'm not trying to make a joke, but it is a joke. I don't have to try to make a joke because it is a joke in a way. All right, thanks. Bye-bye.